Hello and welcome to the Community Producers on Shaw TV. I'm Mark Hanley. On the show today we have a couple of stories that can tell you about how you can help orphans in Asia with an organization called Child Haven, or in Africa with the Comox Valley Glacier Grannies. Kate Brown's going to introduce us to an artist who's chosen a medium that's a little bit challenging. There's a musical treat that is both a sound and a sight to behold. And a little later on, I'm going to introduce you to some mothers with children with autism. And I have a very big number from the Comox Valley Child Development Association telethon. All that's coming up, but first, Catherine Temple has taken us on some great trips this year. We did the Campbell River estuary. She took us out to Middle Natch Island in the middle of Georgia Strait. Well, today we submerge. Catherine takes us to the top 5 dive sites in Discovery Passage.
From GoCampbellRiver.com, bringing you the 5 top diving spots in the Discovery Passage. Jacques Cousteau rated the Discovery Passage and the Georgia Strait as having the best cold water diving in the world. Number 1, Whiskey Point the Rock. The dive is about 60 to 70 feet, and what you're going to find here is wolf eels. Now, the rock that you can see in the background right now isn't necessarily visible at all tides. The tide is really quite low right now. It's actually starting to move, and you can see that it's really moving. So in this area, make sure you understand what the tides are doing before you embark on your dive. So dive site number 2 is Rowanby Dam, which goes from Kwathyaski Cove to April Point. About 60 to 80 feet, you're going to see a lot of strawberry sea anemones. As a matter of fact, there are walls and walls of them. And this is unusual because you don't see this everywhere. This is just in this area or in California and nothing in between, especially the massive concentration of these absolutely beautiful red walls. Number 3, Steep Island. Very, very steep dive, very deep dive, up to about 90, maybe even to 100 feet. But what you're going to see here is northern feathered duster worms, clusters of them, hundreds of them, maybe even thousands of them. They're really large. They can be up to 2 feet tall. You might even see them a little larger than that here. But then they flower out like a bouquet of flower in deep reds and purples. And it is gorgeous. Number 4, Copper Cliffs. Straight out of the water, 100 feet out of the water, straight down, 90 feet down. And what you're going to see is Puget Sound king crab, big ones. You're also going to see some octopus and lots of bottom fish, as well as a great deal of huge boulders for all this stuff to hide in. So this is a definite must to put on your list. So number 5 is the Argonaut Wharf. Now this is probably one of the only shore dives you can do in this area. It's not very deep, 30 feet to maybe 50 feet overall, but the pylons themselves are full of life. They have all kinds of invertebrates that are actually attached to them. There's octopus down there, there's crab down there, and it's a very interesting dive, and it's also a fairly short dive. So this is definitely one that you want to try first. And finally, when you come diving in Campbell River, make sure you have your dive flag. And if you see a dive flag and you're boating in the area, stay away at least 100 meters and give the divers lots of room. And let's make sure that you check your tides and go talk to the locals. Don't go diving here without knowing what you want to do. It may be beautiful, but it can also be quite dangerous if you're not prepared. So talk to your locals, check your tides, make sure you have your dive flag up, and be safe.
Great video, eh? I just love the colors. Thanks to Catherine Temple and Top 5 Campbell River for that. We're going to move on down to the Comox Valley now for a musical surprise. Surprise? Well, no one expects flamenco in the Comox Valley.
Right here in the Triple Heat Dance Studio in Tin Town, we have fiery flamenco right here in the Comox Valley. Brittany Christina Bowman is a singer who is accompanying flamenco dancers. Her husband, Oscar Robles, is the guitarist. He's from Mexico City. How much more multicultural can we be?
I was just drawn to it, and the more I heard it, I just realized that it was something I wanted to pursue. And I had never really sang before that. I'd been involved in numerous music groups as a bass player and doing other things, and I always just left that to the other singers. But for flamenco, there was a bit of a void there in the Comox Valley.
Brittany met Oscar in Mexico City. She was a musician, he's a musician, so music is the food of love. They got together, became a couple, started performing, and then they discovered a little ad for the Comox Valley of flamenco. So right now, there is flamenco happening. It's fiery, it's passionate, and it's fun.
Our aim is traditional flamenco, but just the very fact that we're here on Vancouver Island, we're a man from Mexico, a woman from Japan, and myself, I think that just makes it nuevo flamenco.
Flamenco started in Spain in the Middle Ages, so the music you hear is protected by UNESCO because it is so old, so ancient, and they want to preserve it. I've actually seen live flamenco in the caves of Granada, and it is an amazing dance. It's passionate, it's fiery.
You have to get a good amount of volume because the feet and hand is pretty loud sometimes, and just be able to go with the flow, to be able to respond.
I guess the word to describe flamenco would be fiery and earthy, because you are relying on the sense of music. So it may be the guitarist, it may be the singer, it may be the clapping, or it may be the dancer. They all take their turns, just like jazz. So if you would like to learn more about it, you can go onto Facebook, look up Oscar Robles or Brittany Christina to find out more about when they're performing. From Triple Heat Dance Studio in Tin Town, this is Judy Murakami for Shaw TV.
I saw the trio perform at the Comox Valley Child Development Association Telethon in November. They were great. Kate Brown has a story for us right now. Actually, she has an introduction for us to a local artist who's chosen a very challenging medium.
Hi, I'm Jayson Fuerstenberg, and I'm a fine artist in the Comox Valley. I like a real textured look to the drawing, so I'm always trying to just build up layers on the tooth of the paper, and that way the whole piece gets a nice textured look to it. I try to follow like magic realism, so you know, it's realism. It's all anchored in realism, but with a sense of the fantastic. So, you know, I'll often, you know, draw something that like a whale or a bird, and I try to capture it somewhat realistically, but I'm not trying to capture it photorealistically. I'm trying to capture the mood of the piece. I use a lot of pencils. I can show you, I have a source for pencils from Indonesia, and I get boxes of them. So for something like this, I'll probably go through maybe 30 or 40 pencils. I used to work them down right to the nub, but it was too hard on my fingers, so I worked them down to about that much. I'm mostly inspired by Vancouver Island, and yeah, ever since we moved here, I've just been very inspired by the nature around me. It's just amazing. I came here about 10 years ago with my wife. I'd been working in Calgary and had gone to school there, the Alberta College of Art and Design. And yeah, we moved out here, and yeah, I've been kind of focused on career and family for a long time, but now I'm finally getting to focus on my fine art. Having just kind of started getting out there, I decided to try a show in the summer, and I'd always been to the originals only and respected it and Joe and what he was doing, and so I decided to give it a try, and yeah, so I got all my stuff framed and got a tent and all the paraphernalia that goes with it, and decided to give it a try, and it was really great. It was a good experience. Got a lot of great feedback, got to talk to people about my work, and yeah, it was interesting because a lot of people were very surprised to see me because I'd been you know, stuck in my hobbit hole for a long time. So. Yeah, the paper I buy in a big roll. You can't really get sheets quite this large. So yeah, for some reason I like working large. It's a bit of a punishment, I guess.
Really keen to get a chance to see some of Jayson's work up close. We're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, we'll have stories about orphans and grandmothers and how the two intertwine.
Request access to air your content on the Community Producers. Volunteer with us. Join a free TV workshop. Check out these websites.
In December, we put Christmas lights on our houses and on our trees, so why not put them on your bike? My name is Sue Vince. I'm a member of the Comox Valley Cycling Coalition. I've been cycling for a long time. I love to cycle. I know it's a lot harder to see people on their bikes during the winter months, so this year I'm putting Christmas lights on my bike. And I hope you will too. The Comox Valley Cycling Coalition wants to remind you to be safe on your bike. Give yourself the gift of safety over the holiday season. Light up your bike. May you have a safe and bright holiday season, and wishing you a visible and reflective Happy New Year.
Support from the Comox Valley Community Foundation has allowed the Cumberland Empire Days Society to purchase a new aluminum stage to be used not just for Victoria Day, but for community events throughout the year.
And welcome back to the Community Producers. We're going to get to a story about the Comox Valley Glacier Grannies in just a minute, but first I want to tell you about a local connection to a global organization that's been helping orphans for over 30 years.
Bonnie and Fred Cappuccino from Child Haven International started by adopting 19 children, found it very expensive, and decided they were going to build homes where the children actually come from. It's a lot more economical that way.
Well, Child Haven was founded by Bonnie and Fred Cappuccino in 1989, and they had 2 children of their own, and instead of bringing more children into the world, they decided to adopt. So they adopted 19 children from countries over Vietnam and India and China and different places, and then they decided that they could raise so many children in those countries what they would cost one child in Canada. I went to volunteer in 2003 for 3 months in a child haven home near Kathmandu, and when I came home I thought I wasn't going to go back, but what I could do is host these dinners.
So you started this in the Comox Valley?
Yes, yes.
Oh my goodness.
And there's a few people from the valley that have gone to child haven homes, and a couple of couples have gone. One couple went 4 different times for 3 months each time. And there's people in Nanaimo and all over the island that have gone to child haven.
So if they want to get involved, where do they look for information?
The website is www.childhaven.ca. And they're always looking for interns, which are volunteers, to go over to their homes. And they would like a commitment of 3 months, because it takes that long to kind of acclimatize to the people and the culture and customs. And then, you know, you don't go as a nurse or as a teacher, you go as a person that just wants to help, and you do whatever they ask you to do.
From the Comox Valley, this is Judy Murakami for Shaw TV.
For another approach to this global issue of childcare, the Comox Valley Glacier Grannies focus their energy on helping grandmothers in Africa. Here's why.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, and when a child doesn't have parents because they've lost them through the epidemic of AIDS, then the grandmothers take over. For the Stephen Lewis Foundation and Glacier Grannies here in the Comox Valley, that's where people can help.
The whole generation of parents has been decimated by the AIDS pandemic.
It started with the Stephen Lewis Foundation, and Stephen, of course, was one of our wonderful ambassadors. He's very well spoken, very highly regarded, and when he saw this plight in Africa, he decided that he had to step up and do something.
Grandmothers don't have rights in Africa for land, and they just need support. They're coming to grassroots organizations in Africa, come to the Stephen Lewis Foundation asking for funds to support their causes, and if the Stephen Lewis Foundation deems it beneficial, then they are supported.
There are 250 groups across Canada, and on Vancouver Island, there are about a dozen organizations that help out.
Oh, I wish that we were able to solve this huge issue for the grandmothers and the grandchildren in Africa. So our goal is just to work hard and do everything we can to help our sisters.
And that can be the form of making crafts and selling crafts at crafts fairs. We also put on events like this African dinner, and we've also held other events in the past, such as Scrabble tournaments, and sold Kaziri jewelry, lots of different things. And we also now are branching out to do more support in the community. If another organization's event needs some servers or dishwashers, we go and do that for a donation to the Stephen Lewis Foundation.
If you'd like to get involved and don't like meetings, you only have to go to 5 meetings a year. You can participate however much or however little you want, but all support is appreciated.
So our website is www.glaciergrannies.org, and there's a contact portion that you can contact us through.
From the Comox Valley, this is Judy Murakami for Shaw TV.
Thanks to Judy Murakami for both those stories. Through my volunteer work at Shaw Community Television and through the telethon, I've met a lot of interesting people at the Comox Valley Child Development Association. I'd like to introduce you to 3 mothers of children with autism. When a child is diagnosed with autism, many of us will shake our heads, but not really know what that means for the child, for the family, for friends and relatives. One of the many factors that makes autism challenging is that while a child may follow some general pattern, each child is unique and their response to autism is unique as well. Listen to what these mothers had to tell us.
On a personal level, the biggest challenge for us has been safety. Having a child who does not really understand danger, oh, jumping in the river is a bad idea, or running off across the road without looking is a bad idea. That's been very challenging and very scary as a parent.
Our perception is our own reality, and sometimes he doesn't have the tools to describe or clarify what he is that he wants, but man, he really wants it.
No communicate. Before he was okay, but suddenly he can't look at us, and even we do Skype with his grandparents, and he doesn't look at them anymore.
Mouth and nose. High five! You can do it!
With all these challenges at home, autism doesn't stop at the front door. And unfortunately, when in public, the actions of an autistic child are often misunderstood. And for those of us who don't understand, we just compound the situation.
Actually, our biggest challenges have been with other people and their perceptions or ideas of what autism is or isn't. Like being out in public and we're having a difficulty, like her licking windows on the ferry, and someone's commenting on the behavior, and people not really understanding what autism entails, or she speaks well, or she has eye contact, so oh, she must not be autistic. So we've learned to ignore those comments and focus on our child and focus on what's best for her and just ignore what everybody else is saying.
3 children, each with their own response to autism, and often a less than accepting public. Fortunately for these families, they found out about the Autism Program, or TAP, provided by the Comox Valley Child Development Association. The impact of this service on these families is very hard to gauge.
Before he entered this magical place, I didn't know who he was. All I knew is that I loved him and I needed to have a special kind of patience. But that was just my feelings for him. I could only imagine how frustrating his life was, because before TAP, he would only communicate through violence. Yeah, he didn't have language. And that violence, I don't think, was ever because he's bad. It was just frustration, because we see glimmers of it, and now I know when I see it, we need to step back and find another tool to, unlock why he feels that way. So yeah, life has gotten so much better for all of us.
He enjoyed to come here to do stuff, and also he could get like basic skills, and even, of course, speech and talking and connect to people.
Well, we've noticed huge improvements in self-regulation. That's probably our biggest improvement, and also self-awareness. And she's also increased in her social skills and her safety skills. As a family, TAP is really great at involving the whole family and having team meetings and seeing what the whole family needs in order for their child to succeed.
If there is a shadow on the TAP program, it's cast by an old building that can no longer live up to its task.
So to begin with, it's really just the size. It isn't big enough for us to accommodate all of the kids that require the service. We have some challenges around the light. It's in the ground floor of our building, and it really isn't providing a lot of natural light for kids. It's particularly challenging with our older children because the space is small. We have tiny chairs. It's kind of cluttered, and kids with autism often are distracted by clutter. So it really is needing a bigger space and one that's calmer.
This is all about to change. The Comox Valley Child Development Association has taken on the project of building a new home for the Autism Program.
Well, we're adding about an additional 2,600 square feet to one of our existing buildings, so tearing down an old storage and garbage area and pushing the building out. We're very excited that we're going to have the building designed right from the bottom up, thinking about kids with autism and their needs. So the light, the way that the environment is structured, how we will equip it, it'll all be designed with those kids' needs in mind.
Soon, TAP, the Autism Program, will have a new home at the Comox Valley Child Development Association. In the meantime, in these 3 families with children with autism, life continues on an upward curve.
My advice for someone just starting on this journey is it's not all doom and gloom. There are so many positives, and if you focus on the successes, as well as meeting the challenges. It just makes it so much easier to handle because the successes are so huge when they happen.
At the Comox Valley Child Development Association, I'm Mark Hanley. So I mentioned earlier that I had a really big number from the Comox Valley Child Development Association telethon. It was a great event in November. There were lots of familiar faces, there were new faces, but what the event really showcased was the generosity of the Comox Valley, with a whopping total of $148,088. You should have been in the room for the excitement. It was amazing. So thank you to the many, many donors. And if you still want to help the Comox Valley Child Development Association to finish that center, they're easy to find. This has been our show for December and our last show for the year, but we'll be back in 2018 with more stories on the community producers. Thanks for watching.